All right. It is 7:06. We're starting just a little later than 7 o'clock here. We'll go ahead and call the November 20th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals to order. The main purpose of us all being here tonight is there are two public hearings scheduled. We do have one item of business before those, though. We need to approve the minutes from the October 30th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Oh, go ahead and do a roll call. Greg Zink.
Present.
Chuck Williams.
Present.
I'm Anthony Cyphers, and James Moore and Lori Jackson are absent. Now we'll move on to approval of the minutes for the October 30th meeting.
I've reviewed the minutes of the meeting, and I see everything to be just fine, unless Craig finds something wrong.
Just a
Clerk order.
clerical thing, just a misspelled word. In Chloe Day's statement, it's where it says, her last statement says, "Let it be the community that stand up," and it's got mod, it should be not push people back. Just that one correction, one thing I've seen.
Other than the grammatical correction in one of the statements, are there any other corrections or additions?
I
to
think
the-
everything to be fine.
All right, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, moving along. So we'll go ahead and move on. We've got two public hearings tonight. So on behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting. Everyone who appears before the Board of Zoning Appeals is entitled to a legal right of due process. Therefore, everyone present who wants to will be given an opportunity to speak. Has everyone signed in that would like to speak? If not, just see Ronnie or Gina. We're asked that when you are called upon, you'll first state your name and your address for the record. We have two public hearings before us this evening, and we're going to follow the same format for each. Public hearings held for the purpose of hearing testimony, and just that. It's not to be used as a forum for public debate between proponents and opponents of whatever matters at hand. All comments made must bear relevance to the subject at hand, and comments made are to us, the Board of Zoning Appeals. We may choose to impose a time limit of 5 minutes per speaker. It's important that everyone has a chance to speak. Again, we may impose that. Given the number of people, it's likely we don't have to tonight. First, the petitioner will present the facts and arguments in support of their case. The board may interject with comments and questions throughout their testimony to clear up subject matter. Then we'll hear from individuals from the public who wish to speak. After the public has been heard, we'll invite the petitioner back up to address questions and concerns that have been presented. When we're satisfied that all testimony has been presented and our obligation to you of due process has been fulfilled, the hearing will be closed. At that time, we'll make a decision based on what's been presented, relevant legalities, and is it or is it not in the best interest of Salem and Washington County. At this time, I'll go ahead and hand things over to Mr. Vissing, and he will explain to us the legalities regarding docket number 2025-16.
Yes, and that's Mr. Kimsey's application. So this is for a developmental standards variance. So I will briefly describe to you the process for a developmental standards variance. The Board of Zoning Appeals may approve or deny a variance from developmental standards from the Salem zoning ordinance, subject to limitations in section 156.104 of the zoning ordinance. Under the zoning ordinance, a developmental standards variance may be approved when the departure from the developmental standards is not contrary to the public interest and due to conditions peculiar to the property and not the result of actions of the applicant, literal enforcement of the Salem zoning ordinance would result in unnecessary and undue hardship. Additionally, pursuant to Indiana Code 36-7-4-918.5, a developmental standards variance may be approved only upon a determination that, first, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Second, that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And third, that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. And tonight, with there being 3 members of the board present, it will take all 3 votes to carry any motion.
All right, so we will go ahead and invite Mr. Kimsey up to, or Miss Kimsey, I'm sorry. All right, and if you could please first just state your name and address for the record.
Are you talking about the property on the docket?
Your current address, please.
My current address? Okay. My name's Riley Kimsey. I currently live at 206 Cindy Lane, Caruthersville, Indiana, 47229.
All right. And so you are seeking a developmental standards variance, and from the application, it looks like this is in regard to building a 30 by 32 foot home.
Correct.
And where the variance is being sought is the placement of the home is going to infringe 12 feet onto the front setback?
Correct.
Okay. Nothing with side or rear setbacks?
No.
Okay. We have in the application, there is a picture from the GIS of the property here. It's not, satellite imagery is great, but it's not always the clearest idea. Can you explain, I guess, why is the variance being sought? Why can't we be 30 feet from the road?
Yes, on the west side of the property, right along the line, that's the property line, there is a water runoff pipe with also a steep incline. So the builder, Gary Hollowell, went and looked at the property and suggested to seek a variance to move the house up in line with all the other houses that are currently on the block to help alleviate any, what I'm assuming is potential sag due to water runoff or any issues on that back corner, because it would put it looks like 5 to 10 feet next to the opening of the pipe. So he suggested moving it forward.
Okay, so the builder suggests due to there being a pipe that comes out, deposits water, moving the footprint of the house up to avoid that would be prudent. And this would put your house in line with the other houses that are already existing?
Correct,
Such
yes.
as the adjacent property?
Yes,
Okay.
so to the left and to the right.
I don't,
Say, do you guys have
got
any
any questions, Greg?
additional questions?
I'm not seeing any problems
Okay.
if it's in line with the other houses.
For now, so how this will work is you'll go ahead, you can take a seat for now. We're gonna open public comment, and then we may, if we need to, we may call you back up after public comment's done. But that's all we need for now.
All right, excellent, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We did not sort these by which hearing you are here to talk about. So if it's okay, if we can do so in an orderly manner, if there is public comment on this hearing, if you just want to make your way up and state your name and address for the record, I'll mark you off and we can go in order here.
My name is Thomas Roberts, and I live at 280 East Botts Lane. I live directly behind where Riley Kimsley's got the half lot up there. My main concern is the water. Several years ago, when I moved there, behind my house, I had water standing in my house. Help with the city and the state, I have no more water standing there in my house, okay? Now, I'd like to have it documented before this is approved. If water runs off, situation now, the house is there, standing in my backyard, all that water will be resolved. You know, I'm trying to take care of my property.
Understood.
And if that's agreed upon, good to have that document mailed to me. So the city and the state helped me have no water standing in my backyard no more. It's been years and years since I had water. We had a lot of excess rain. Water don't stand there no more. What I'm afraid of is the water runoff now, because that land's not level. Goes down, and I'm afraid of the water runoff beside the house or whatever. There might be a situation, I might have standing water again in the back of my yard, and I don't want that. Because I have no water now back in my yard. We've had a lot of excess rains.
I understand. Just, I guess, a clarifying question, if it's appropriate. What work was done by the city and state
Okay.
to help rectify
Okay.
that?
Right here's Woodlawn Drive. It's kind of angled down, but the brick house to the east of me, top, next to Woodlawn Drive, water kept running down that way. The state, right next to Woodlawn Drive, close to me, put a pipe through there. Well, that water now goes through there and to a dump station over here and goes down to Revenge beside west of my house. There's a big ditch there. Well, she talked about that pipe, and that's where that water goes to. Plus the state put a big pipe across 160 there, Watts Lane, which I have no more water at my house no more standing. What I'm afraid of is that drain off comes down. I don't want water standing back on my property again.
Well, I certainly understand that.
Well, you know, I've had some, looks like a lake back when I first moved there because a lot of water stood there. But like I say, if water does come down there, I'd like to have it documented that it would be resolved. Somebody would take care of that. We've got both parties discussing that, who's going to take care of what. I want to make sure it's documented, that water situation, if it stands there, would be resolved.
Okay. I don't know, in granting in the matter at hand, which is the granting of the developmental standards variance as it pertains to the front setback, that's the issue at hand here. I certainly understand your concern here. However, I don't know that that's,
You think it's not feasible to get that resolved? I've had no water problem yet, for years.
well, I'm not saying that, but as far as this board and what we are
Well,
engaging in, I guess, I'm not sure that that's our,
I guess your question is, if I understand it correctly, is the variance application is to build the home within the front setback, so closer to the road. The individual here has concerns regarding water runoff at the rear of the property, and how is the shifting of the building envelope into the front setback going to potentially affect or impact that water runoff situation? Because the lot itself could be developed and built upon by right in the absence of a developmental standards
Correct.
variance. The only question is where the house is going to be placed on the lot, not whether or not a house can be built upon the lot.
Okay, how far back's that lot going to be positioned off of Woodlawn?
that's a good question there. The setback requirement is 30 feet. However, the variance being sought is to move it up 12 feet, so it would
Okay.
be 18 feet off. So to move it away from
No, actually, I'm
this
not worried about all that.
space.
What I'm worried about is, I'm not in no water situation for 30 years now. The city's helped me, the state's helped me. We've had some excess rains. Now, if this construction goes here, if that disturbs that land, the water runoff, I could have a situation where I have water standing in my backyard again, and I don't want that.
Well, I can understand that. I do, but I don't know as far as guaranteeing or making any sort of promise or warranty about water. I don't know that this board in our capacity to,
The BZA can't bind the city to do
Right,
any
that's not true.
stormwater remediation
Okay, may I ask
on
this?
that property.
I've had that done probably 25 years ago. The city and the state had a lot of water in my backyard. And now, it can rain 5 or 6, 12 inches, I don't care. No water stands in my backyard. What I'm concerned with now is, we've got a construction here now. The diverse of this water coming down, if the water stands there now, it wouldn't be standing there if that construction wasn't there.
And I think the question that Anthony is asking is, do you believe that it's that moving the building envelope 12 feet further closer to the road would
Eliminate that?
worsen this problem or somehow affect it? Because I get, the question's not whether or not a home can be built upon the lot, because
Okay.
it can be built on the lot by
Yep.
right.
Right.
And that the applicant wouldn't have to come to this board to get any approval or variance to do
Right.
so. The only reason that the application is before us is because, due to, I believe, some stormwater piping on the property, it's more feasible to build it closer to the road,
Okay.
at least in the judgment of the applicant and their builder.
Okay, another scenario. In front or back of the house, is there any way they can divert the water runoff to that pipe going to that ravine I've got on the west side of my house?
I mean, you may want to speak with the applicant and their builder about what they can do with the.
Okay, well, what happens when it rains real hard, that construction's there and I got water standing in my backyard? I've not had it for 25 years. What happens then?
Well, I guess the question is, in the relevance to what's before the board is, do you believe that that your concern about stormwater runoff, is it exacerbated or caused by, in your belief, the variance that's being sought, so building it closer to the road versus just building it in the existing by right building envelope?
I can answer that.
Okay.
well, and that's what,
What
Mr.
I'm trying
Roberts,
to say
that's,
is, I've had no water for well over 25 years, and I've had excess water back there. With the help of the city and the state, I have no water now. I
Right.
don't want water. I'm trying to protect my property. That's what I'm trying to do.
sure.
So
and-
how can I do that?
Well, the board, I don't think, can answer that question
No,
for you.
but
They're
what
just
I'm-
evaluating the application based on the criteria of the zoning ordinance. They'll
Right.
take your testimony as part of the record in making its decision, but I think the question that, and not to speak for you, Anthony, but I think the question that you're asking is,
Yes.
do you believe that the variance, the subject matter of the variance being sought somehow impacts the stormwater situation on the property, rather than, I think, the way that I understand you to be posing it to us is your concern is about construction on this lot more generally,
I'm
and
not
how
worried-
that construction is
Right.
gonna
I'm not worried
affect,
about construction. I'm worried about the water runoff.
caused by the building of a home
Could be,
there.
could be. It depends
Okay.
on the
Right.
excess of what rain we get. But now I don't have no water at all. So I can't understand why it can't be documented that this situation, if I have excess water back there due to excess rain, that this water situation can't be resolved.
Because this board does not have the authority to enter into any obligation to do that.
My name's Steve Neville, and I'm attorney with Maddox and Wilson down in New Albany, Indiana, 125 East Spring Street. I'm here assisting Mr. Roberts to get here and talk. I think what he's saying is that, but for there being some kind of drainage or stormwater problem, that she wouldn't have to seek the variance. I don't think there's an objection that she's putting a single-family house in a neighborhood with a bunch of single-family houses on a lot that's vacant, but that he had problems with drainage before, and if practically nobody can really, a contractor's not gonna build on that lot because there's a drainage problem on one side of it. I think what he's asking is that, look, if things have been fine for 25 years and then all of a sudden I've got construction and somebody builds a new house, then that diverts water onto my property that wasn't there before. Given that stormwater is the reason for the setback, the request for the variance on the setback, can there be some kind of condition to be put in the variance, that it's not going to divert water to keep the status quo essentially, not divert water that's not being diverted there right now because it's fixed. And I think that's what he's asking. And I'm sure that the board and Mr. Vissing could see what they legally can or can't do in terms of adding conditions to that kind of variance, but that was the request.
And I think Mr. Boyles has some comment on that.
Is, whenever we went out and looked at the site that she picked and the surveyor got all the surveys done, we determined that there is a drainage on the west and there is a small drainage on the east side. And during construction, and we made it clear to Gary Hollowell that they cannot plug up any of those drainage areas during construction, because there will be some dirt moved around. But as long as those two stay open, I don't see any flooding going on there whatsoever. She's gonna be moved up closer to the road where it's drier, and that'll leave that little, storm area that's already established, it'll stay open.
So I guess to your request, if the board were to consider putting a condition on any approval, if they were to grant it, would a condition requiring the applicant not to materially alter the current stormwater and drain off infrastructure on the lot, would that be something that I guess would make your client feel more comfortable regarding the issue there?
Yes.
Okay.
And one thing else I'll add, when everything is done, her downspouts will have to be put over into the bigger drain to the west, and that'll keep it away from his property then.
Okay.
And that's one thing that we will make as necessary.
And is that with, as far as diversion of rain runoff from gutters, is that something?
Yeah,
I guess,
you could, if the board were inclined to grant the application for the variance, then you have the ability to impose reasonable conditions on that approval, one of which could be limiting any impact on the existing stormwater infrastructure and also requiring that stormwater be diverted into those drains in order to mitigate any potential runoff, stormwater runoff issues.
understood.
That's one thing, we don't allow anybody to put stormwater over on somebody else. It's gotta go in a drain.
Okay. All right, is there,
So basically, that takes care of itself with the building ordinance.
right,
And we'll be there to monitor it.
So do we need to make a motion about this, or that's it?
Well,
we need to make sure there's no more public
Okay.
comment first.
yeah, but what, if that is a type of condition that the board would be inclined to do, then when you make the motion, I think at this point, we've articulated in the record what those conditions would be, and those are the recommended conditions from staff. So in making a motion, if it were to be a motion to approve, then you could just say a motion to approve with the stipulations, the staff recommendations that have previously been spoken into the record.
And we do have a stormwater staff that will monitor it, and myself.
Okay. Is there any more public comment for this hearing? Okay, because I think the wording here, if this is something we're inclined to do, I mean, there are any number of circumstances that could arise completely separate from the petitioner's construction or maintenance of the property that could, at one point in time, impact this area. So I think if we are inclined to put something in there, it needs to be specific to what she or her builder may or may not actually be able to impact at all. So do we I don't have any additional questions for the petitioner. Do either of you have, is there a reason to bring her back up? All right. I mean, I don't think we need to close here, do we?
Is the
since we-
presiding officer, with there being no further public comment, he can close the public comment section, and then, you can continue with discussion, and then obviously any motion, one way or another, on the docket item.
Okay, we'll go ahead and then close public comment and move forward. Given, I think here, the setback itself, it's in line with the other houses. There doesn't seem to be any
Shouldn't be a
material issue of any neighbor with the building department on granting that. However, of course, the concern's been presented here about potential runoff issues.
Well, the potential runoff issues, I think, is already taken care of by the stormwater committee. So, really, I don't think that needs to be, put in place with or without.
Although I'm inclined to agree with you that yes, that really does address most of it. I don't know that personally you can disagree with me. I don't, putting in the stipulation to the approval that during the course of construction, that no alterations, changes, impact will be made to existing infrastructure. I don't know, because that is the case, I don't know that it hurts anything for peace of mind of the neighbor to go ahead and just reiterate that formally here.
We're gonna make it clear to the builder that he has to keep all debris clear of those storm drains. If you plug up that storm drain, yes, there is gonna be flooding. So we're gonna make it clear to him, he has to make sure all that stuff's cleared away.
Sure. I would entertain, I guess,
Motion.
a motion here.
I make the motion to go ahead with the variance with the perimeter drains, everything that the city asked for them to do and tie in so that it doesn't cause any problems. And the lot designed or shaped to drain off, to not cause any water problems. I mean, and as the contractor builds it, he'll be able to grade it, shape it, what all. And as long as all the drains are hooked where they should be and what all. And I'll make a motion to pass it.
I'll second that.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Variance has been approved with the requirement that existing stormwater runoff infrastructure is not altered, blocked, clogged any way, and that the builder will follow any advice given by the city to help mitigate any potential issues. All right. We'll go ahead and move on. We do have a second hearing tonight, docket number 2025-17. So Mr. Vissing, if you'd like to introduce this one for us.
Yes, this is an application for a special exception for the expansion of a mobile home park. The mobile home park, or mobile home parks, I should say, are governed by section 156.084 of the Salem zoning ordinance. Mobile home parks are allowed in the RR and R3 districts as a special exception. I believe the current park there has been approved by a special exception up to a certain number of lots to this point, and so the applicant is seeking to expand the existing mobile home park on this site to include additional lots on the full footprint of this parcel. A little procedural history on this. This came before the Plan Commission last month. Under the zoning ordinance, the site plan is subject to review and approval by the Plan Commission, similar to what's required for a plat approval. The zoning ordinance sets forth some specific criteria about essentially the developmental standards for for a mobile home park, very similar to how the subdivision control ordinance sets forth similar criteria for the platting of a subdivision. So that was approved at the Plan Commission level, and so that now this is coming to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the question about the expanded use. So I'll go a little bit through the procedure and then also speak to a little bit of background on some homes that are currently being stored on the lot. So for a special exception, the Board of Zoning Appeals may approve or deny special exceptions from the Salem zoning ordinance. A special exception is required for uses that would not generally be appropriate or without restriction throughout a district, but if controlled as to number, area, location, or relation to the neighborhood, would promote the public health, safety, morals, order, comfort, convenience, appearance, and prosperity of the city and the neighborhood. And again, you'll also be reviewing this application to ensure consistency with the comprehensive plan. A little additional background on this is the city staff had previously got information about a couple of homes that were being stored on the lot, and we've been in touch with the applicant and their counsel about that. Typically under the ordinance, such storage would not be permitted. However, what we've opted for here, understanding there are some logistical difficulties in moving these homes, finding a place to situate them, and I believe there's the ultimate intention to have these on padded lots and connected to utilities here at this site. So the arrangement that we've come to with the applicant is an understanding that if there were an approval that were issued tonight for the special exception, there would be 90 days to get those homes on completed pads and hooked up to utilities and ready for occupancy. And again, that's all in accordance with other laws and regulations applicable to the park. If the application were to be denied, there would similarly be a 90-day period to get those homes off of the lot to bring it into compliance with the zoning ordinance. So that's just a little bit of background from the Plan Commission level, from the staff level, and then also the procedure on the special exception. I do know that the applicant has gone through with it. There's a current private gravel drive that's through the existing park. That has been treated with a solution to make it dust proof and to somewhat lock the gravel in place to prevent kind of loose gravel spill out into the public roads nearby, and again to satisfy earlier conditions to a prior expansion of the park to require it to be a dust proof surface. So staff and the Plan Commission have been satisfied with that. And so tonight, we can turn it over to the applicant to present on their special exception application. And just as with the prior docket item, this is a public hearing item, so the applicant will have an opportunity to present their application. They've submitted a written application. They'll have the opportunity to present it orally to the board, and then the public will have the opportunity to come up and provide public comment. Once public comment is closed, the applicant will have the ability to come up and reapproach, address some of the comments that have been made, and answer any further questions of the board. And as I'm sure Anthony will remind you, public comments, not a question and answer session amongst the board and the applicant, though the board reserves the right to ask some questions of any public commenters as they see fit. But it's especially not a forum for question and answer between the applicant and the public commenters. Really, the comments should be directed to the board as comments, testimony regarding your position on the issue, and any relevant facts that you have to, that you may find relevant or that the board may find relevant. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Anthony, and we can invite the applicant up.
All right, Mr. Bryant, would you like to come forward and? If you don't mind, that would be helpful. Thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is John McCoy. I'm an engineer with JLM Engineering. It's at 720 Rolling Creek Drive in New Albany. And I also have Tim and Zach.
Mine's Tim Bryant. I'm with, I'll give the address of the office. It's 507 Inez Drive, Salem, Indiana. It's top of the park. So.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Zach Van Vactor. I'm an attorney at Sites and Harbison in Jeffersonville. I represent Mr. Bryant in this company.
So I'll just go over kind of the summary of the development plan on the project. Jake gave a good background summary of the park. Mr. Bryant, he acquired the park back in 2019 and finished out the first section, which has a total of 31 homes. The total property acreage is about 11.5 acres total. We are proposing an additional 49 homes for this expansion. We have submitted plans to the State Health Department, which they have the jurisdiction of approving mobile home parks in the state of Indiana, and they review all the details as far as the engineering, the layout of the homes, stormwater, sewer, water utilities, access. All of those items are thoroughly reviewed by state engineers to make sure they comply with Indiana State Code as far as all of those items go. So you'll see on the plan there that we're proposing to extend the existing Inez Drive, which is accessed from Martinsburg Road. That's going to be extended into the vacant property, create a loop road here that will extend to the north, that will come out onto Old State Road 60. So the entire park, when it's completed, will have three public access points from existing roadways. All of the utilities that will be tied into, this new section will be tied into our existing as far as sewer and water and electric utilities are all existing adjacent to the property. The city has signed off on and approved, connection to the utilities, sewer and water. The state has, like I said, reviewed to make sure the water pressure will be able to provide sufficient fire protection and water supply for the domestic demand of the new homes. And so they verified that, as well as the sanitary sewer, the wastewater flow from the expansion into the existing system. They've evaluated the proposed stormwater grading and handling of the stormwater, which will be taken care of and internally on the property. The property drains naturally from south to north towards Old State Road 60 and the creek. It's a fairly steep grade. We have an existing stormwater detention basin on the north end that currently serves the existing mobile home park. That detention basin will be expanded and increased the volume of that to allow for the additional impervious surface with this expansion. And like I said, again, all that has been reviewed by the state engineers and approved. That was an approval that we received in August of this year from the State Health Department. And as Jake mentioned, the Planning Commission approved a few weeks ago the overall site layout, and as far as compliance with your zoning ordinance as it relates to mobile home parks, that was also approved. And one of the items that was asked at that meeting was buffering. Like your ordinance requires a landscaping buffer that has to be provided for with evergreen shrubs and trees around the perimeter of the property. The height of these trees have to reach 12 feet minimum at full maturity. That's also shown on the plan around the entire perimeter to create this buffer from the neighboring properties. I think that pretty much sums it up. Do you have anything else to add, Tim?
But like that, I do have cameras at the office, and of course, later I'm gonna set my own utility poles and extend cameras so I can better watch the property. And I'd also like to add, what lot number is this?
76.
Lot 76, I would like to bring one of my mobile homes I already got, so we could be closer into town and be actually on spot here. I'm pretty much there 6 days a week. I show up the 7th day, but I'm working 6 days a week, and I'm always there. We haven't had any crime or anything like that, but I figured cameras are a good way. Of course, we don't let anyone in there that's going to endanger children or anything like that either. We're pretty much on safety and health, and of course, we've got a great city police here. They come through, make their presence. That keeps crime down. And of course, I house veterans. I grew up in this community up on Arthur Street. And, like I said at the prior meeting, a lot of these pillars of our community kind of influenced me to do something. And so this was, I guess the direction I took was trying to house America is my logo. And of course, I've got veterans, I've got single mothers. We've prevented people from being homeless, which we don't need that around here if we can prevent it. I've got, we got some that's on like Section 8 programming, which is a good program. They're getting pretty tough now. I think Inspire, I don't know if anybody's heard of that, they're overseeing this, they're actually getting stricter. So on anybody I've got on that, we are required now to go and put smoke detectors in every single bedroom, every hallway. GFI's got to be added to the kitchens, bathrooms. So they're getting pretty tough. So, which when I bring these homes in, I normally put a new breaker box, new outlet switches, just for safety. Sure. I ain't gonna rent something if I wouldn't live there. Of course, I don't know how many people here remember that part before 2019, but there wasn't too much there. I've definitely put a lot of money into new infrastructure and trying to improve it. And of course, I take pride in this community. Like I said before, Jim Bennett was a pillar of the community. Roddy Humphrey, he kind of got me. I don't know if anybody knows him, but anyways, he was part of Ernie Baird. A lot of these guys, Pete Brown, Marita Sue Jones, which is Trey Jones's wife. She was a school teacher, but she's also friends of the family. Real good people have influenced me to do a lot of great things here as I got older. But so, it's not like I'm going to be out of town and let this run down like some previous parks. I'm here, and the state's going to let me know if I'm doing something wrong. They made that very clear.
Sure. I do have, you acknowledged, it's come up, you seem to have acknowledged the green barrier. Something I would like to just comment on there is eventually maturity, not less than 12 feet in height, but further up in the sentence, not less than 6 feet high after 3 full growing seasons. So within 3 years, whatever that barrier, if we were to approve this, the barrier requirement is that we're 6 feet or greater within 3 years, with 3 growing seasons. So just to point that out, you don't think that'll be an issue?
Now, on the south side, I know there's a couple neighbors here. Would they require us to take out that natural barrier and redo all that, or just can we leave that alone on that?
If there's an existing green barrier that already meets or exceeds the requirement.
It's not green, it's just regular trees and stuff. I've got it back on Tom's side there. So I didn't know if he's okay with it, or the adjoining neighbors, if they're okay with that.
Yeah, I think if you were inclined to entertain that being a possibility, what I would recommend that you do is just make it subject to staff approval, so that Ronnie he can take a look at what's there and ensure that the intent of the ordinance to provide a vegetative screen, essentially a visual screen, would be carried out by the existing landscaping buffer, and if not, then it could be required to add, the new, arborvitae or whatever that, conifer type evergreen tree would be to meet the requirements of the ordinance.
Sure. One question I had is, we're part of this project, this expansion is adding in additional private drive. Additional homes are being added in. Are there any hydrants being added into fire
Yes.
hydrants?
Yeah, there's actually an existing hydrants on either end of the property, and one is being added internally, one new one, so, for fire protection services.
And is that was that just by choice of the applicant, or did that?
The state looked at that and reviewed it to meet the code as far as fire protection for those homes and the separation between the hydrants.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say then that the state says one more hydrant where they've said to place it is enough, and if that were to change, that's something you would have to comply with.
Correct.
Okay. I had just a couple questions. If you guys can interject at any time. I like to see it, the proposed recreation playground area. In the ordinance requires recreation area equal to at least 8% of the area of the park. I'm not the greatest at mental math, and not to the current size, I guess, of the proposed playground area. If that is the sole recreation area, I do not know that as illustrated here, that completely complies with the ordinance.
Yes.
As written.
Yeah, if you take the property as a whole into account, the entire 11.5 acres, so there's an existing, where it says existing park area, there on the right side of your plan sheet next to Inez Drive, that's an existing recreational area
Okay.
in the existing section. And then what we're calling outlot number 2, where we actually show a specific proposed playground area, which was required by the state to meet state code. But that entire outlot area, that 11,389 square feet, that entire area is open space, or what would be considered, recreational area that would be free of any homes. So that in combination with the existing park area would meet your ordinance requirement.
Okay. I know one concern, I guess, too, is as we just expand and add additional roads, additional people, additional vehicles. One concern is parking, are there plans right now to, like, I know we can see here that each lot has a parking area. However, it's very likely foreseeable that over the course of time, people come to visit, people might have more than 2 cars per household, that street parking will be necessary. It's gotta happen. Is there any plan to either limit or to prohibit parking on one side of the street, say, and only allow it on one side, just to make sure that that road has adequate space for two-way traffic?
That's certainly something, you know, that we can put into place if the city feels like that needs to be done, you know, as far as signage that clearly states, you know, no parking on the street. There is off-street parking, you know, for each home, there's a 2-vehicle pad for each home, which is required. But I don't think the intention would be to allow for parking on the street, just for safety purposes.
Gotcha. I know
Emergency
that-
vehicles.
Of
yeah.
course, that concern comes from, you know, if Honda Civic getting through there isn't a problem, but should there be emergency
Right.
responders, depending on what vehicles are parked there, we may run into an issue
Sure,
potentially where we might have a problem.
right.
Now,
Okay.
we've also welcomed them to park like off, after hours at the office, they're welcome to park up in there anywhere and be out of the way, and that way they can stay off. That's what we've been doing now.
Okay. As far as initial question, that's all the initial questions I had.
He pretty well covered most of the ones that,
And a big also on, we don't want drugs in there. We've got signs posted on both ends, and so we're definitely about safety, so.
what's your projection of filling this up? What's your timeline to think it'd be? How long it'd take you to do?
If it goes as fast, that second side, it went faster, it went so fast, I couldn't even get it. What was it? I think we had that filled in less than 10 months. I mean, it was so much, I was just till dawn, just absolutely wore out, but we're gonna try to do this kind of in phases here, so we don't get too much erosion going, do a little bit of time, and then
Right,
Boom.
right.
Road-wise, you say in phases. Will all of the road infrastructure be put in initially, or will that also be in phases?
I think.
As far as the loop, I'm specifically talking
Oh, I think
the
you
loop.
said
I'm
we could make
assuming
temporary
this
loops here, didn't we?
Timco Drive's gonna be pretty immediate, because that's where you're accessing it from, but.
Right.
Right. Yeah, so the intention would be, if not the entire road is built at once, that a turnaround would be provided at the end of a stub street into the new section for emergency vehicle turnaround.
Okay. Thank you. Greg, do you have any questions?
No, not yet.
No, all right, as right now, he's answered most of them.
All right, so for right now, I guess we'll go ahead and thank you guys for coming up here. We'll likely be calling you back up later, but we're gonna go ahead and move on to public comment. The way we're gonna handle public comment here is I'm gonna go in order. If you still would like to speak, please come up, state your name and address for the record. Gordon Dowen.
My name is Gordon Dowan. I reside at 508 Tucker Street, and then also the owner of 512 Tucker Street that's bordering the south side of the property, Mr. Bryant's property. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you tonight. I would like to, before I get started into my concerns here, I'd like to say that I'm kind of hard of hearing, so I couldn't hear a lot of what was being said prior and before, and I think the city attorney has expressed maybe some of the concerns that I have here, so forgive me if I speak to items that have already been addressed, okay? With that, I'll go ahead and get started. Stand before you today to express my concerns and my opposition to the expansion of the Timco trailer park. Since Timco bought the property, our quiet little home country home in the city has been diminished. When we bought the property, or when we bought our house, it was a field behind there and it was wooded and it was just like living in the country, only we get the benefits of living in the city of Salem. Since he has bought the property, he has put up a chain link fence which is uneven and it's not straight. He has built a large 2-story pole barn, and he's brought in some large junk golf carts, UTVs, and other items which are stored directly behind our property. Previously, our view of the existing trailer park was obstructed by trees and brush. Unfortunately, Mr. Bryant has cut down all those trees and removed the brush, and now we have a direct view of the trailers and are subjected to more of the noise associated with the trailer park. For the last 2 years, Mr. Bryant has bulldozed along the south border of the property behind our home. He also brought in truckload after truckload of waste material, primarily mulch, to fill in these low areas of the property. If Mr. Bryant were to put trailers on that ground, it would appear that the ground would not support the weight of those trailers. The constant dumping and bulldozing made it impossible for us to sit on our deck and enjoy the fresh air and the peace and quiet. Per the state code 16-41-27-22, it states that the construction of a new mobile home community or the alteration of the existing mobile home community shall be made only with plans for the proposed construction or alterations have been forwarded to and approved by the State Department. Now, I do not know if he has any of these permits, but we were not notified of any of them. Now I'd like to point out that the real problem with this expansion is that Mr. Bryant's continuous effort to circumvent the regulations and the goodwill of the city of Salem. About 20 years ago, the previous owners of the park requested to expand the trailer park, and the bordering property owners petitioned against it. At the time, there was no mention of any grandfather clauses. The board denied the request. When Mr. Bryant requested to expand the park a few years ago, the board also denied his request, but he convinced them that he was grandfathered to do so. For this current application, there is no grandfather clause. This is an example of Mr. Bryant circumventing the system with contempt for the city and his neighbors. Another example is Mr. Bryant installed and rented a recreational camper, which is not a residential trailer, on one of his end lots. This is a very unsafe condition. This camper was installed approximately 5 to 6 feet high on columns of concrete blocks. A flood or a heavy wind could have had deadly results. His refusal to comply with regulations forced the city to take him to court, and when the situation was resolved, he moved the camper to behind our home. Now conveniently, since filing for this application, the camper along with piles of tires and trailer axles have been removed. This summer, Mr. Bryant moved 2 mobile home trailers onto the property and is storing them illegally per the city ordinance 156084 and 085. The city advised him of the ordinance to remove the trailers, and instead filed another lawsuit with the city to go to court, and to my knowledge, the issue hasn't been resolved. I think that was one of the things we had talked about earlier. These trailers were indication of the trailers that he proposes to expand with. They are old trailers of similar age and styles as the existing mobile homes, some of which are up to 50 years old. In summary, Mr. Bryant has had contempt for the city ordinances since taking ownership of the property. He has failed to abide by the rules and refused to comply against city enforcement of regulations. Mr. Bryant will likely come before you and plead his case for approval of the expansion application, and give you a story about how he spent tens of thousands of dollars to improve his property in preparation. But he has done that of his own accord prior to his application. That is on him, and those expenses are not the concern of this board. He opted to do this before filing the application with the city. I implore you to consider that his prior applications will foretell his future action, and excuse me, and he will not comply to future regulations or comply with city requests any more than he has so far. I ask you please do not to reward his disrespectful and contemptful behavior towards the city of Salem and his neighbors with this application approval. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak with you tonight.
Next on the list, we have Becky Carpenter.
Becky Carpenter is my neighbor. She's kind of, she's handicapped and it's hard for her to get out and about. So she had written a letter and asked if I would present it to the board. So I'm speaking on her behalf. Thank you. To whom it may concern, I purchased my property 22 years ago. My backyard adjoined a beautiful woods and field, and a very small trailer park with very few trailers left was on Martinsburg Road with a few left. The property was sold, all trees in the field demolished, and then came a large fence that was over my property, but the man moved it. Next came 16 mobile homes. Now he wants to make another major change. I do not want a Southway villa behind my house, as it is full of rundown trailers and unpaved roads. I say no more mobile homes. It's noisy now and unkept. No Southway villa. Rebecca Carpenter at 506 Tucker Street in Salem, Indiana. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Jean Dowen.
I do have some pictures.
Sure. Thank you.
My name is Jean Dowen, and I reside at 508 Tucker Street and also own 510 and 512 Tucker Street properties. When we moved to Salem in 1993, our property bordered an open wooded field. The small woods blocked the trailer park view and noise. The neighborhood was quiet. In the early 2000s, the mobile home park owner wanted to expand the park. The neighborhood came together and the board denied that request. We were assured that additional trailers would not be allowed on the property. Timco purchased the property and everything changed. Our first dealing with Mr. Bryant was when he decided to put a fence around the property. He ran a guideline near the property line that was within our property border and the property borders of several of our neighbors as well. He was shown indicators of property boundaries, but would not move the string until the mayor got involved. The fence was placed within his property line, and he added 1-foot pine trees. Timco continued to alter the property. The tree border that blocked the view and the noise of the trailer park was removed, and piles of mulch were placed behind our house. He eventually spread the mulch, but did not maintain the area, and weeds grew taller than the pine trees and through the fence onto our property. My husband treated the weeds. Timco continued to alter the property. More trees were cut, and the mulch was used to level out the property. Timco added a large pole barn and removed the trees from the fence line behind 506 Tucker and our house. He added a fenced-in storage area for trailer park materials, including stacks of tires. The trees were not replaced. Instead, he opted to hang black fabric on the fence to block the view. Timco continued to alter the property. A 2-story addition was added to the pole barn. Now, most of the trees have been removed from the property, including the trees along the houses that border Timco property on Ridgeview. Those border trees have not been replaced. The area is now bearing ground. All these alterations were done by heavy equipment. The bulldozer revved up around 4:30 p.m. most every day until 7:30 or 8 in the evening, and all day on Saturday and Sundays. Dump trucks moved loads of mulch, rocks, and concrete several times a day. We were never made aware of any permits being issued for alterations. My concern is that Timco has not complied with current ordinances, and will anything change when he adds even more mobile homes? I do not look forward to more destruction and noise. I do not want the addition to the mobile home park, and I would like a well-maintained dense green belt of evergreen trees or shrubs along the existing property line of the mobile home park as per the Salem Code. In the first picture, you see September 1st, 2023. This is behind 506 Tucker Street. And there were trees planted along there, and when he put the pole barn in, he took all those trees out, and you can see that there is no trees in that storage area. And then on the second page, that's behind our house, and those are shrubs and weeds, and you can see that it's not dense. They're mostly deciduous trees, and so like right now, you can see right through there because there's no evergreens. On the third page, you can see on June 18th that they decided to put up the fabric, black fabric, which you can see through. And that's behind part of our house and part of 506's house. On the next page, that gives you a broader view of the black fabric, and you can see that it doesn't go down to the ground, it only covers part of the fence. And you can see how the fence line is up and down, and that the fence actually is not even with the poles there. The next picture, that's June 18th, and it shows you what the shrubbery and the weeds are next to the fence line, and that the fence doesn't go down to the ground. On the next page, you can see how the fabric falls when you look at it from above, half of it there, and that there's no trees down past that fence line. And the next page, you can see from August 2023, looking out over the field, you can see all the trees along the Ridgeview properties, and you can see that the trees, there's a shed and our boat, and there's like a small pine tree there. That's the dense evergreen. And then on the last page, I took this today on November 20th, and you can see the blue circle shows the black fabric. The purple circle shows the trailers, which have been there since May 1st, 2025. And the red circle shows, you can see the property line, all of on the backs of the Ridgeview houses. He took down all those trees that he had planted and other trees, and he has not replaced any of those trees with any kind of evergreen, dense evergreen bushes. So, and then you can see that all the barren land where all the trees were taken down, so. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. All right, next on the list is Jerry. Is there a Jerry?
Yep. Longacre?
Longacre, yes. Jerry Longacre.
Hello, my name is Jerry Longacre. I live at 409 South Bryant Drive. I live in the mobile home park. It's a nice place. Tim's trying to fix it up. He helps out veterans, single mothers, and people that have hard time getting by, so to speak. And it's a benefit to the community. It'll bring in more people for Salem. You're talking about more money, more homes, and trees and fences. That happens on construction sites till it's finished. I know Tim, I know things will be finished the proper way. So taking pictures, I understand that. I've been in construction quite a bit in my life. It happens. But when it's finished, it all looks better. He gives an opportunity to people that don't have any opportunity, a place to live. It's not an eyesore. I live there. It's quiet. Everybody gets along. There's no problems there. It's a clean mobile home park. So that's about what I have to say. But he's really helped out a lot of people. And there's a lot of people out there that can't afford $1,500 to $1,000 a month in rent. But he's making it feasible for people to live there and not have to, pay out everything they have just to have a home, whether you eat, or you pay rent, or you pay your utility bills. You know, it's a clean, nice place to live and affordable. And that's kind of a main concern. And as far as the mess goes, that'll all be cleaned up. I know Tim. And I know the people that's helping him, and they're doing it the proper way. You know, and putting up shrubs for privacy, that could be on the individual on the other side. 'Cause there's all kinds of land that becomes acquired by other people. They have construction, they rebuild stuff on it. You know, so it butts up in behind their property. That's just part of the property line. No matter fixing is putting up some trees and shrubs, you know, that's no big deal either. I don't see what the problem would be. People's complaining it's an eyesore. Well, all construction sites are eyesores, so they're finished, are they not? No answer? All right, but you know what I have to say, right?
Yes, sir.
This is a progress working, and it takes time. But people want privacy. I mean, they can put up taller fences too, and they can put up their own shrub. But it's an affordable place to live for people like me. If it wasn't for Tim and Sheila or Timco, I wouldn't have a home or a place to live. You know, they help out a lot of people, and it's affordable. That's the main thing. And you're gonna bring people into your community. That means more money's gonna be spent in Salem and around here. That, to me, is a plus. So, that's about what I have to say. You gentlemen have a nice day.
Thank you. Is it Donna Neal? Is that, or Danny Neal? I'm sorry, Danny.
Hello, my name's Danny Neal. I live at 419 Bryant Drive, Salem, Indiana. I live in a mobile home park that Tim owns. I help him. I've been in construction all my life. And yeah, it ain't pretty the way it is right now, but I mean, that's construction. And it's affordable. I can afford to live there. I can't afford to live nowhere else. Because it's out of my budget to pay $1,900 for an apartment complex to live in. And he made it affordable for me to live there with my son. And, you know, I think it's a great thing, him trying to help people and stuff. Helps veterans, helps single moms. He's all for that. And when the park's done, it will be a nice park. We've been planting bushes, shrubs, and when you're digging and carrying on, you can't plant nothing because you're gonna tear it right back out. But I want to thank you gentlemen for y'all's time.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Donald Neal.
My name is Donald Neal, live at 421 Lot 21 Bryant Drive, Salem, Indiana. I met him back in 2023. And I needed a place to move that I could afford, because the place I was at, I couldn't afford to pay that. I didn't want to talk to him. He said, we'll fix you up. That's what he did. I've been there ever since. I like it there. It's always quiet. No ruckus goes on that place or nothing. And they're good people. And I hate to see him lose over some stupid thing, but he needs to expand to get more people. That's my opinion, you know. But I wish y'all just let him go on and do what he's got to do, and make more apartments, more trailers for more people to live in. Poor people. We're poor people. We're not rich. We're poor people. We live right on the borderline, you know. And you got to fight for everything you get nowadays. And he's right there helping you everywhere you go. He's right there. He'll help you in any way he can. You know, I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tim? Is there a Tim? Oh, that's, okay. Never mind. John, McCreary?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. And then attorney's the next one. Was there anyone else in attendance who maybe didn't sign in, or have I passed up anyone's name who wanted to speak? All right. Okay.
This is on behalf of Connie Pendergranit. She lives at 908 South Ace, Ace Avenue. Let me try to read her writing. I think lots of drunks lived there when the park started. About 4 years ago. She said it was a slum area for multiple years, no dust-proof drives, no park beautification, landscaping was non-existent, and parking was anywhere. The changes from years ago are astronomical for the better, and that's since Timco has owned it. And then myself, I'm Sheila Thurman. I don't know if they put my name on there. But I live 2nd Street in Campbellsburg. And for this park to get approved is very vital for my family. It's very unsafe where we live. At 2:30 in the morning at any given night, you can get up and your whole house is glowing, red glowing from a 20-foot fire that's not more than 30 feet from my back step. I do know that everything is kept well maintained at the park because I do the property management there. I know that the trees that were knocked down, most of them that's behind the pole barn, the tornado, I think it was in 23, had come down and knocked all of that down. So we had to remove what was on our side of the property. At that point, we did take the fence down to let the neighbors that were behind us bring the trees forth and kept them on our property, so they would be removed out of their yards. There's been a lot of upkeep. We don't have bad tenants that live in there. We don't have rich tenants, but I don't think that you have to be rich to live here. And for this to be a city, it's amazing to have some country values to it, yes, but it is a city and it is a growing world, and we all have to have places to live. The people that's in our park are respectful. There's no noise after 10 o'clock. If there is, then the tenants will, whoever may be next door, or the maintenance guy will go check in to see what's going on. There's no crime in there. At one point, we had a lady who called 911 a lot. She was elderly, very sick, fought with her children. Her daughter, who had been ran over by a car and had some kind of brain trauma. So they argued a lot, and then 911 would get called. She, unfortunately, we had to evict her, but later she passed. And that's basically, that's the kind of people we have. We have good people in there. We have respectful, we have clean people. We have poor people, but we also don't have people who are disrespectful, who trash things, who want to be disrespectful to any of the neighbors around. That's just how it is there. I don't think any of the trailer parks around that's in town, I wouldn't want to be there. I don't mind being there at Timco because it is clean and there are rules that need to be followed, and those rules are kept by every one of our tenants. So, and that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
May I add just one more thing, gentlemen, please, I forgot to say.
Sure.
I'm a Army veteran, 91B combat medic. I never seen any combat, but I'm a veteran, not a war veteran. And I wanted to say that Tim helps out the veterans, so we didn't have to be homeless. I wanted to let y'all know that too. Yeah, he has a very respectful place to live.
Thank you.
I wanted to let you know that.
Is there any other public comment? If not, we'll go ahead and I'll close public comment for the evening here. Board, next thing we need to do is, we can, if anyone has the desire, we can call the applicant back up. Otherwise, it's on us to discuss this amongst ourselves and make a determination. So do you guys currently see any need for Mr. Bryant to come back up? Mr. Bryant, would you come up if you have anything else to add? I know there's been
If there's anything else that you'd like to say for the board's consideration,
I
you
was
know,
gonna- I can
typically-
comment on the,
Could you stand by the microphone so we could hear, please?
I reckon so. So they was talking about a camper previous to this. I just want to get that clarified. Of course, you heard the other veteran mention, I'm all about veterans. I had a veteran that was 87 years old. He was an 87-year-old Navy veteran, homeless. He come to me, and he let me know that the city police let him know he couldn't be living in his car at 87 years old. He needed to do something. So the camper that they're regarding was this 87-year-old veteran that I was trying to help. I mean, let's face it, he wasn't going to live forever. It might not have been the prettiest thing, but I was trying to help this 87-year-old veteran. That could have been my grandfather, your dad, your uncle. I mean, I don't know anybody in this room that would have turned down a Navy veteran that fought for our freedom. And so I just wanted to clarify that camper was not mine. That camper is gone now. And of course, the ATVs, there was an incident, I think it was a couple years ago. And of course, that's got to be in legal matter. Those ATVs and what's there that they're talking about on that trailer is not mine. I have to get legal action to get possession of those. We actually had another veteran that ended up, somehow he ended up in the creek. And of course, he ended up deceased, no family. So I'm just clarifying what that is. There's a legal process. I'm not sure what all that is because I've never been through it. But I know I've stored it for some time, and I know that that's a different process. It has nothing to do with anything really, but I just wanted to let the board know that those ain't mine. And as far as the blackout fence, I did that as a courtesy so they didn't have to see my maintenance area where I try to keep everything neatly stored. I also fenced that in on my side with gates to keep children out so they wouldn't get hurt for safety. And I mean, I try to keep everything organized, so I just wanted to clarify that's a maintenance area.
I guess one point of clarification I have, it was brought up, and I know, not in your testimony, but in public comment that stated earlier, there was behind where the office pole barn building is there, that area, correct me if I'm wrong, at one point in time, there was much more dense vegetation through there, and whether by choice of removal or maybe impacted by a storm and potentially, some trees fell then, that now, at least from current photos, it does appear there is a lack of, and that is also the area where some of that blackout fence is, but it does appear that there is not any vegetative barrier there of an evergreen nature in the ordinance.
The ones that we're talking, I think they actually planted some on the opposite side of my fence, which that's fine, I don't care, of course, when you got the building up close, we rocked that for erosion control. It's got, I think, number 2s.
Which, and that's fine if they chose to do so, but in the ordinance, regardless of whether whoever they is, the neighbors choose to, on your side, we've talked about on this new part over here, and I think we're, you know, you're agreeable there, but any existing part, you know, that doesn't have that barrier, that would need to be there.
So do we need to plant that like at the foothill of the up next to the building? Is that what we're needing to? I don't know how we're gonna do
At
all
least
that
for the
wrong.
current you know, I guess the specifics of that one area, if there is some uniqueness to a specific area of land that might require being creative in some way, that can be a discussion, maybe not right this second, but I'm talking more generally of, you know, I can tell which area you're talking about, but it does appear that there is more of an area rather than just that isolated area that might also be needing
Okay.
the trees planted. Is that?
Yeah, is that on the south side I was talking about?
It's
Where we need to tear all those out and restart over?
right. So I'm talking about the south side of the property here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the requirement for the foliage it's applicable to all exterior boundary lines of the property with the exception of established entrances and exits.
Okay.
So even if a neighbor has put up plants on their side of a property line, it doesn't negate the obligation under the ordinance to maintain a vegetative buffer on your boundary line.
Yeah, I wasn't for sure if we had to put them behind the building, because the building's up.
Sure.
Like the
And
privacy anyway, so.
right, and for your benefit, this is kind of the area I'm talking about right here. Now, I think if you go, obviously, this hasn't been developed yet,
Right.
so this is clear. Obviously, you're planning on according to your plan. It looks like you're
And I've
going
got
here.
the two-story we're talking about here, then I've got the
Right
maintenance
here.
area is like right here.
So that would, by the ordinance, that would need to continue all the way to here. Now, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if such a situation were to arise, I mean, this is existing, what we're talking about here is existing, that's not related to this expansion, but, you know, that,
So just go ahead and gap this shut.
I mean, to be in compliance with the ordinance as written, I would,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then we may have to put it down to the building, not put it on the side of the bank there, roll massive rocks. around
right,
it.
I mean, something,
Yeah,
yeah,
do that.
okay.
And I'm assuming it'd be okay to wait till spring till they start getting those back out where I can get them available.
I think with those questions, I would just coordinate that with Ronnie and the staff.
Okay.
With Ronnie, I would though, I think it's important, you know, for the record here, when, obviously you can't plant anything in the dead of winter, it dies, it's a
Right.
waste of money and effort. However, the existing area needs to fall in compliance, period, but in regard also to the proposed expansion, in the ordinance, the wording of that, eventually they need to reach a mature height of 12 feet. However, they need to be not less than 6 feet after 3 full growing seasons. So I am not a plant scientist, I'm not an expert on which plants grow or what age of a tree you might need to purchase and install, but the ordinance is written as not less than 6 feet after 3 full growing seasons, which would, you know, like start in the spring of 26, assuming that's when the date starts. So by 29, they would need to be over 6 feet tall. So just
Of course, we can.
for the record there, with whatever you're putting, you know, were to put in,
Okay,
it would need to meet that.
okay. 'Cause whatever those were, that's what I've got, what's the name was it?
Arborvitae.
Yeah, that's what we've got most of the thing now, so, yeah.
Do you guys have any additional questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I believe it, I mean, most of them have been brought up and addressed. What do you got, Greg?
Ronnie, what's the line of sight on the, old 60 road where it comes out? Is the line of sight for that curve good enough where it, okay.
For what the speed limit is, it's adequate.
Okay. You say that there was another fire hydrant that was gonna be placed inside the park?
Yes.
Can you point that, you're talking about in the center section here, is that what you're talking about?
And that plan there is it's an overall site development plan.
Right.
In the entire plan set, there's another construction plan that's just devoted to the water line, that has an interior hydrant somewhere in this area, this
Okay.
vicinity.
Okay. You're gonna have
Yeah.
one down here?
Yes, one down here and then one over here.
Oh, you got one over here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, this is the existing, here's the existing water line, and this gray line coming off there is the proposed.
Right.
So it'll come all the way around and loop back in to the existing main on Old 60.
Would you, have anything wrong with your, when you're talking from here to here, maybe putting one in somewhere over in this area here to help? Cause you got your building, your buildings and things. And add another end.
I mean, Tim, he's asking if you'd be willing to add another hydrant in. Right now, we have one here, and there's one at each end.
But you're talking a pretty good lay from here, around.
Yeah.
Where's he proposing it at?
He said there's one
The one we're proposing would
Right
be
here.
here.
Okay.
There's an existing hydrant
down there at the
here.
bottom. And then there's one
Then there's another one
up
over
here.
here.
Okay, from
Yeah,
here
that's
to
what,
there, how big of a distance is that?
They're spaced so that you don't have any more than 400 feet from any point, for a fire
Okay,
truck
right.
to pull a hose.
Right.
400 feet between hydrants, either, each way.
Right.
each way, okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
but I don't think he'd have any issue if he felt like there needed to be another intermediate one. But that's what the state bases their requirement off of, as
Okay.
far as the spacing, is what we showed them, yeah.
Okay.
Got
Yeah,
the big
it's-
fire hydrants flowing through that. The idea of going through Tim's property, and of course, you guys all work for the city, and I help Tim. I've done all the dirt work and all stuff working for Tim. But anyway, the idea of going through his property down there at the bottom of the road and coming back up through is for a further project for the city down the road to tie in down like the Highland and future, so that we will have adequate water all through that whole entire area. But the only fire plugs up is right there at his place, so on up the road there, there's no adequate fire protection up there at
Right.
all. And this is the way to get there, the cheapest way.
Just
As
go
far as
through.
the mulch goes in there, that mulch is there because you have to put it there, you know yourself, for erosion control. There's not a pile of mulch underneath that, it's all dirt. That is just a light layer of mulch, it's put in there to keep down erosion. And we've got rock in there we've got erosion control dam, we've got rock in there, we've done everything that the city's asked us to do, and gone as well to make it right.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, we'd have a fire hydrant in front of every house, but, but if
The distance, on the map, it's hard to see.
The distance is there.
It's hard
It's-
to picture it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
if
that-
that
There is
distance
another hydrant
is.
there, it's right in front of Danny Lipton's house, but it's only on a 2 inch, so there's no, there's no adequate fire protection
Right.
down there for any of that through there. So that's what the mayor and all of us, when he done that last edition, rather than trying to come down Martinsburg Road, where they put that sidewalk, was just gonna be astronomically expensive. So when Tim come through his property, that he's allowed us to come across, even though I work for him as after hours, and that's part of my employment. When I come to work for the city, I can work for different contractors, and they are done according to city specs, everything that they want done.
Thank you. You guys have any other questions for?
I don't have any right now.
I don't.
That's true.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think one thing important with, if we were to consider doing this, to some people, I think the thought of, well, it may just be trees or a barrier, it may be a small thing to some people. I think myself being someone who on the other end, I can totally appreciate the desire, not just because it's a part of the ordinance, but just from being a good neighbor, creating
Right.
a green barrier that is attractive and also keeps some separation between neighbors. Good fences make good neighbors, I think is how the saying goes. So I think with that, if we were to consider approving this, could it be made a requirement that be complied with, not just complied with, but complied with first? Is that at all within the realm of possibility? Or is that really outside of the?
Yeah, I think you can condition the approval on that being addressed within a certain period of time after the approval. And, I know you made mention of weather and season being a concern, so you may consider that, but, you have the ability with an approval to impose reasonable conditions on the approval, and that could be one of them. But, ultimately, I think that may be a bit redundant because it's already required under the ordinance.
If we were to approve, I know before one of the conditions of the initial expansion request was the dust-proof road surface. Is that something we ought to reiterate?
So it's my understanding that that's the staff's wish. The Plan Commission as well in their site review, I know that was an important point in that. So that would be something to consider for a condition.
Okay. Sure.
What's the special exception we're doing this for?
So a special exception, I guess to explain it more broadly, in the ordinance, when I touched on this at the beginning, essentially a special exception is a use that could, in certain circumstances, be compatible with the underlying zoning designation. But because of the nature of it, it requires an additional level of scrutiny to ensure that it does conform with, looking at the location and some of the specifics of the specific location, the specific use, that it is compatible. So that's just more of my layman's term explanation of it. I can reiterate what I guess the standard under the zoning ordinance is that a special exception is required for uses that would not generally be appropriate or without restriction throughout the district. But if controlled as to number, area, location, or relation to the neighborhood, would promote the public health, safety, morals, order, comfort, convenience, appearance, prosperity, or general welfare of the city.
I would invite a motion from either of you if you are so inclined.
I've got mixed feelings about it.
I mean, I see all the thoughts and the concerns of, everybody that's for and against it, and different things. But if it would turn out as well as what this map shows, and you put the green barriers in and good grass vegetation, all the way around it, I really can't see anything wrong with it. But that's my opinion, and so.
So I think that, what concern I have is, whether it's this applicant or, any other park that were to go in, is the condition, especially condition over time and maintenance of the property is really important.
Right.
On the one hand, there's a lot of truth, and we need housing, period. We need affordable housing, period, in the city, and for the betterment of the city, that's something we've long been in need of and are still in need of. However, on the other side of that is what we don't want, is we don't want to open the door or allow or facilitate a situation in which either rundown or unsafe or,
Right.
detrimental properties might be erected. Now, with that said, I've seen this property over the last, since I've been driving around in a car, 15 years. I don't think anyone can argue there's a marked difference in the condition of this property and the dwellings that are on it from 15 years ago to today. I don't think there's really much other concerns aside as far as the condition and maintenance of the property itself seemingly has done nothing but improve for what it's worth.
Well, I've seen in the past, down the road, I've seen other trailer parks in the community, in the city, that were immaculate. And then were sold to people out of state, and they get run down. 6 blocks from the square. You know, and I'm just, you know, we gotta look at this in the long run of what it can be now and what it can be 60 years from now, 100 years from now. And is it the right place on a hillside for a trailer park? You know, I know that we need housing, we need it bad. But I don't know if this is the proper way.
And I can appreciate that. There are, though, prior to, there's been one expansion, but prior to that, it has existed for a long time here. On the flip side of that, you know, ideally, I agree with you, ideally, trailer park's not on a hillside, we're not on a slope, you know, it's flat in ideal situation. Really, in any housing development, I think is fair. You know, I can understand what you're saying, they're great. One thing I think that also comes into play is state guidelines. You know, our ordinance does a little bit with saying where and where not potentially things can go, but as far as state code goes, the maintenance and control of the trailer park is, you know, the state does handle all that. And a lot of potential concerns, I think, are addressed by the state there, and I know they do regularly.
A little bit on that note as well. There is, in the Indiana Code, there's a line of statutes that essentially reserve that type of regulation of mobile home parks to the state exclusively. And while municipalities, such as this board here, may regulate it from a zoning perspective and a land use perspective, where in what circumstances are parks permitted, but when it comes to kind of the health, safety, those types of things with the homes and the parks themselves, you know, sanitation, cleanliness, that type of thing, that's regulated at the state level, and the state reserves that authority for itself.
I mean, when it comes to where it should go, I guess my mind goes to where else would it go? I mean, what we have is, it's not pictured on this, but we all know then just right up the road, there's another. And then if you keep going on, there's another, you know, way further up. As far as I guess the way I'm kind of looking at this is, you know, we all know there was an expansion granted here.
Right.
However, before that, there was a park, the existing park that I don't know the original date it was there, but my whole life it's been there. It'd be, I think, I'd think about it a little different if none of the existing existed and just this expansion were the proposal. I think my 2 cents about it might be different. But because it's expanding on and already, I mean, I don't know where else hypothetically would you want it other than adjacent to where an existing park already is. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. I do think though, per the ordinance and just an effort to be a good neighbor, I mean, I think the green barrier is really important. That's really important to me. I think it's something relatively easy in the scheme of what all's gonna have to be done. That's a relatively simple thing and feasible thing to do to be a good neighbor as well as comply with the ordinance. If we were to grant it, I think of course the requirement of treating the gravel road would have to stand as a minimum. I mean, ideally, maybe at some point in the future, something else even be done, but as a minimum, that,
Well, it has to be maintained that way too.
yeah. I mean, cause I know a big concern is gravel spitting out in the road, causing a hazard. Again, it's a private drive, so the maintenance of that is on the property owner. Even then though, I think in our consideration of things, it's relevant that, that being cleared, cars not being there, that come winter, especially emergency vehicles coming up or winter plowing, keeping it clear, having cars on either one or both sides of the road, I think is a issue not to be ignored.
Quick question for the applicant and the applicant team. The treatment, the spray treatment that has been applied to the existing road, it's my recollection that that's like an annual or an every other year type of reapplication. Is that correct?
Correct. It
Okay.
also just depends on the traffic and the weather that year, and just the wear and tear on it
Okay.
overall. But I think typically you're looking at one to 2 years, every 1 to 2 years.
So yeah, so it would, I guess, another way of asking that would be, you wouldn't anticipate that it would sustain without retreatment longer than 2 years. Like, you wouldn't expect it to last 3 or 4 or longer.
I guess it's possible that it could, just depending on really weather conditions for that year. But yeah, I mean, I would say probably no more than 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
4 years is the maximum,
And I guess if that's a consideration for the board, I mean, I think just trying to facilitate a resolution of that concern is, would the applicant be willing, in the event of an approval, I guess, to accept a condition or stipulate to a condition that they verify the reapplications on a certain periodic schedule with the staff, or, maybe agree to have the staff come out and look at it each year and talk about when the next applications are going to be, just so that there's some visibility on that and ways, I guess, that the staff can hold the applicant or owner kind of accountable for that continued maintenance, so there's not a lack of communication there on the ongoing maintenance.
That's reasonable.
Okay.
That actually is a state requirement, then. So do they write you up if you don't do it?
Yeah, they get potholes, they'll let you do, they're getting pretty tough anymore.
Separate from that, I think we would like to, if we were to approve, I think it would be appropriate to have a condition that
That's just a
city
thought of
staff
it, if that's
does
a
have the right
concern,
to-
that may alleviate some of your concern there.
Yep. Yep, that would.
We do get, if they're not in compliance, we do get notification of that from the state.
motion to grant the variance, as long as he.
Special exception.
Special exception, sorry, special exception, as long as he meets all the requirements that the city and the state ask of him, and, you know, especially with the trees and the green vegetation wrapped around at an early stage of the project.
Do you want to include on that the dustproof surface and the
Yes, and the maintenance of the dust-proof surface.
inspection by the staff?
Yes.
May I ask you to consider amending the wording slightly on the green barrier there to be completed at earliest opportunity
Yeah, that's
during
why
the next growing season
Yeah,
for the
yes.
entirety of the project?
The whole perimeter of the property line, all of it to be vegetated and trees planted and, you know, well, you know, springtime starting.
One other, just, would you consider adding to your motion that parking would be either completely or at least prohibited on one side of the residential street?
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we park on, I'll let him pick which side, but, you know, one side parking on that street to give ample room for everybody to get through.
So far, of any of those things, do those raise any compliance issues if those were to be requirements?
No, that's not.
Is there anything that's not been said that's a concern that you might consider adding as a stipulation? All right. So the motion's been made to approve the special exception subject to parking being either completely prohibited on the road or limited to one side exclusively on each road, as well as not the compliance of the green belt of evergreen trees or shrubs being planted the entire width or perimeter of the property at the earliest convenience beginning the next growing season, i.e. 2026. That the road surface, the installed gravel road surfaces be treated with the same treatments as the existing road, as well as you're agreeing to allow the city to ask and request, if needed, that be redone from time to time as deemed necessary. Chuck, does that wording cover your motion
Yeah.
adequately?
But when we talk about the green shrub rim, as in putting in vegetated grass and seed, you know, so many feet from the fence on, you know, so that it's growing up and looking nice with the trees as the construction goes along, yes.
All right, motion's been made.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Conditional approval has been granted, subject to the conditions stated. That will be written up, and you'll be able to get a copy of specifically what those are. With that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearings for this evening.
I'll make that motion to close the
Motion's
public
been made,
Second.
seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, with the public meeting closed, is there any other business the Board of Zoning Appeals needs to address this evening? You do. Ronnie, please.
One individual that's come in and talked about a variance that was granted probably a year ago, maybe.
Tonight?
Yes. He just wants
So my recommendation is that if they believe there's a compliance issue with the zoning ordinance or the variance, that's really something that needs to be made at the staff level, because the BZA can't ad hoc revoke a variance. If there's a violation, then that's addressed with a notice of violation from the zoning administrator and adjudicated in that manner with the property owner. But other than that, it's, you know, outside of it there being a violation of the zoning ordinance, it's really a dispute amongst neighbors, and there's nothing that this board can do. The board can't take action on any of those items.
Not that I don't want to give someone the opportunity to speak, but it wouldn't, we couldn't do anything.
You want to meet in my office with, and kind of go over that?
Sure,
what the
yeah.
recourse is?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and close the meeting now.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. All right, with that, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn the November 20th meeting of the Salem Board of Zoning Appeals.
Make a motion to close.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.